Hey, Dr. Lindsey here. Today's video is on hair transplants gone wrong, part 1. False advertising and false premises associated with advertising. So today we're going to specifically talk about FUE and two particular issues. One is donor depletion and two is low yield. And I'm going to show you kind of what happens and mechanistically why low yield can occur. So let's start off with donor depletion. We see lots of guys that come in here, at least once a week we have a guy come in here who says that he was sold based on an advertisement or an email solicitation or even a radio ad. We've heard radio ads while we're doing these repair cases of scarless surgeries, and a lot of guys bring in magazines from the airlines and show they want a scarless surgery and a full head of hair. And so whether or not you get a full head of hair is a whole different issue. But there's no such thing as scarless surgery. Anytime you make a cut on anybody's skin, you're going to get a scar. Now the idea is to manage those scars and spread them out so that they're not easily seen. With strips, if you come to an office that they're comfortable doing trichophytic closures, typically we can get a scar that wide. We get 80 a year that are this wide, and we get 4 a year on virgin heads that are this wide out of 130. But all those scars are essentially coverable with my current hairstyle. With FUE, it's thousands of little white dots, roughly a millimeter in size, spread across your whole donor area. So there's a lot more scarring, but it's spread out so that, in theory, the customer or an observer won't see any specific scars.
A linear scar.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's an example. This guy, example number 1, is a military guy who came in. He was very upset that he had essentially a low yield FUE, and he was told that he would be able to keep his buzz cut and nobody would know what's going on. And so look at his head. And what did the girl say about that?
So he basically came in because he was at a bar and a girl asked him what condition was it that he had.
Yeah, I mean, I think
and
they
he
were
was
drinking.
like,
and
yeah, and he's like, what condition? And she said, the back of your head. And it's just the little dots that makes it look.
Looks like somebody shot him in the back of the head with some buckshot.
Yeah, so he was devastated by it, and so he now, he wants to know what to do.
How can he fix his donor area?
Yeah.
And keep a buzz cut, which is tough, and how can he fix a low yield up front?
Yeah.
So that's example 1. When we go back to repair some of these guys with strip, let me show you, look at this example. I mean, this is a guy that has, there's hair everywhere in this guy. It's a virgin head, dense hair. You can get 3,500 grafts out of this dude's head and get them done with almost no trauma. Now look at this next picture of a guy that we're getting ready to repair with the strip, but look at all the FUE scars. So, I mean, he's not terribly dense. I would guess if he had a virgin head, we'd get 2,400 grafts. But now that he's got 1,000 holes in there and some hairs removed, we're going to get 1,500 or 1,600 grafts. And so it's a big deal for these guys.
Yeah, it's less. They think it's like, why can't you get more? Well, we can't get more because
those hairs are gone.
Those are gone, and there's space in between, so there's no hair.
Okay, so but we can still get hair out and sew it up, and so the issue 1 is donor depletion. If you're going to have an FUE, as I've documented in a number of videos, the doctors sometimes get, and I'm guilty of this too, you get going and the customer or the patient wants a specific number of hairs and you're having really good success in one area. Well, it's tempting to say, well, shoot, let's just keep going in that area, but what happens is you deplete all the trees or all the hair in that area, and then you've got a bald spot, and so you can't do that. You have to spread it out over the whole head. And so recognize that there are going to be scars, and that you need, whatever doctor you're going to needs to manage those across your entire donor area. Okay. Then issue 2 is low yield. You can get low yield with anything. You can get low yield with strip. You can get low yield with FUE. The logistic issue with FUE though is there's more trauma to the hair root. I've got several videos on my YouTube and Vimeo sites that go into this in detail. But in summary, I'm going to show you our worst case scenario. I mean, this dude came in. I feel terrible for the guy. He called up with this story, and we came in on a Saturday to see this guy. And he is roughly my age, military guy also, who was still making payments for 6,800 supposed FUEs. Now, I didn't see his op. No, I'm just taking the guy at his word. But he sure had a story that went along with that. And I can understand if you have a bad result one time, going back to the same guy. I mean, we do some repair work on our own patients, but if it doesn't work the second time, I'm not sure I'd go back to the same guy for a third or a fourth and finance all 4 of them. And interestingly, this guy that we're showing, he says he had 6,800 grafts. What do you think? How many hairs do you think he's got?
Like 200-300 maybe.
Just a couple hundred.
Yeah.
And so when you look at his donor area, which I don't have a picture of, I had a hard enough time getting him to let me take a picture of his recipient area. This guy does not have donor depletion. He's got wallet depletion. He's still making payments for these 6,800 FUEs. And so we offered him, we can certainly repair him by a strip. He's got plenty of hair in the back. Lots of white scars, but hair's coming out through them, which would suggest to Wendy and me that they removed scalp skin with a strand of hair but no hair root. And in a minute I'll show you, the following videos that are linked in with this will show how that actually occurs. Wendy and I are doing an FUE and we'll show exactly what goes on, and then I'll show you with little potted plants. Yeah, because this is the worst case that we've seen. We see lots of these cases, but this is the worst that we've seen. Now watch as Wendy and I show you selected portions of an FUE case, and then as I work with potted plants to show you the way that hair roots can be traumatized with extraction from the scalp. I can't imagine how a machine is any better than a human hand, and Feller makes a great argument on that. So we've numbed him up, and Wendy's pulling one direction, I'm retracting another direction, and we go in with this little punch by hand, and you got to find the angle, and then you go down. And so essentially, using plants as an analogy, I've taken a shovel and gone around the plant and down about 18 inches as far as plants goes. This I've gone 3 millimeters. And then of course it oozes a little bit. I can't put a shovel underneath and fulcrum this thing out. So in the next segment I'll show how we get these grafts out. But we do this, and so there's a couple of components. One is I gotta hit the right angle. Next is I gotta stay in the right angle and hope that the hair doesn't twist or change directions underneath. And third is that the removal component, we can't rip the bottom of the root off, and so that's why FUE is just more of a challenge. That these would be the donor sites in the back of the head. We essentially using a circular punch, we incise the skin all around, and then when you lift up, you're pulling the root out. Now, this little plant came in a package where it's not stuck to the surrounding tissue, and most importantly, the bottom isn't stuck on anything. But you can imagine in a human head, this bottom, even though we've made a circle around the root itself, that bottom, the root is actually still stuck. And so when you lift up on this fragile little root ball, it stresses the entire root. So on skinny little plants like this, or thin, fine hair, the risk of damaging that root ball significantly is pretty high. Here you go, so she gently pulls, and it's this little tug.
Yeah, you saw it?
That stresses the root. Lay that over there.
So there's no fat around it, but it's still a healthy one. But you could see that, two more touches, and that graft won't be good.
Yeah. So this is why FUE is less predictable than strip. When you get a strip graft out, it's got a bunch of fat around the root ball, just like
here's another one.
Big old beefy Leyland cypress that you'd buy at the garden store. But those are good. It's just that little bit of evulsive stress is what makes FUE not as good at delivering consistent, lustrous results as strip. I hope this was interesting for you, and make sure you're an informed consumer before you sign up for surgery. Thank you.